at Mertech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on January the 10th in the year of our Lord 2026. And as usual, I got a lot of great information for you. Let's just go over here and click on Mertech on Rumble. This is my Rumble channel right here. This is the video you're watching right now, my live stream, episode 1803. Let me get into that and click on Mertech. All right, we've got a preemptive thumbs up from Uncloudy, and we got Sue's Poll 2016. Hello, I'm not late today. Well, thank you very much for joining us on time. We appreciate that. Okay, let me scroll down here and click the Show More button to expand out the description box. And we have information from ACLJ Sekulow, Benny Johnson, Vince Dow, and X22 Report, Mr. and Mrs. X. But before we get into that, I do need to give a shout out here to Cavi, just started following my channel. Little People Fixer just started following my channel. Mercia56 just started following my channel, so thank you very much for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. All right. Little People Fixer reposted my daily news wrap-up from the 9th. Ms. Flintstone 17 reposted my daily news wrap-up from the 10th. Steph commented on my episode 1782. Okay, so that was like 20 videos ago, 20 days ago. She liked that. Debbie BS reposted my episode 1802. Uncloudy, Viper Senior, and Cannonball 31 commented on my episode 1802. Debbie BS commented on my extra 584A, 584B, and 584C. So thank you very much, folks, for reposting my videos, and thank you for your comments. I enjoy reading your feedback, and I certainly appreciate your support. So let me give this a thumbs up. Boom. And just as a reminder, I have one of those little thumbs up icons right here below the video you're watching. If you want to scroll down or slide down and tap it or click it, that would be wonderful. Okay, well, let's get into this. American Center for Law and Justice, Sekulow. Trump deploys new DOJ prosecutor to Minnesota. That sounds interesting. Let's check it out and see what they're talking about here.
J.D. Vance and the Department of Justice announced that they are creating a new position, and it is the new Assistant Attorney General specifically to target and to tackle fraud.
That's right. So this is really in response to what people have been calling for, saying, is there ever going to be accountability? Are they going to go after anyone? Now, I think there's one, it should be welcome news to a lot of people, but also in some ways may delay some things. Investigations can continue on that may have already started. But this Assistant Attorney General that will be specifically for fraud will have national jurisdiction. So not just in Minnesota, not just in California, but can really go after and prosecute fraud wherever it is found. But they said that this position will be announced. They know who they want it to be, but because it's an assistant attorney general process, they have to nominate and then has to be confirmed to this position. So the person will have a lot more authority than just having someone already within the Department of Justice saying, hey, this is your new beat. This is what you're going after. But that comes with it. It'll take some time. It'll have to go through a Senate nomination and confirmation process.
J.D. Vance did discuss this, I believe. Is that right? Let's hear from him. Bite 6.
We know that the fraud isn't just happening in Minneapolis. It's also happening in states like Ohio. It's happening in states like California. And so what we're doing in order to help coordinate this remarkable interagency effort from the Trump administration, but also to make sure that we prosecute the bad guys and do it as swiftly and efficiently as possible, is we are creating a new Assistant Attorney General position who will have nationwide jurisdiction over the issue of fraud. Now, of course, that person's efforts will start and focus primarily in Minnesota, but it is going to be a nationwide effort because, unfortunately, the American people have been defrauded in a very nationwide way.
It's interesting because the vice president also says, here's why this is better than doing even like a special counsel. One, a special counsel kind of is a temporary position specifically for one thing, with this, it's going to have White House supervision. So the vice president, the president will be able to speak into it, like making sure that they will be continuing that mission and meeting standards of finding fraud in the United States and getting it prosecuted and getting convictions. But also that he even brings up something that we've talked about many times on air about. He's saying this is constitutionally illegitimate. This is going to be a person nominated and then confirmed by the Senate to this position. It's not a situation with a special counsel that just gets appointed and no real oversight and has all those questions that come with it, that even people like Justice Clarence Thomas has even raised recently in cases whether or not even the special counsel process is legitimate. It's something we are happy probably to not see another special counsel, but trying to do this the right way, having it be confirmed by the Senate, and having a real tangible goal of seeking out fraud and being able to use the resources of the DOJ to bring about these cases instead of maybe just one U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, say, that goes after fraud nationwide, but it's really limited to that office. This is someone that is high up in the DOJ and will be able to go after it and use the full resources of the DOJ to prosecute these cases. I like to see it. I know that our people have been saying, where's the accountability? Where are the arrests? But I think this is what you want. But you also need to remember, because they're doing it the proper way, because it's not just a special counsel, a quick appointment that can be challenged in court by the left if they say, oh, this is a waste of taxpayer money, et cetera, because all of a sudden they'll decide they don't like special counsels, even though they've been using them as a bludgeon for the last 10 years. This will be done the appropriate way, but that's going to mean it's going to take a little bit more time. They said in the next few days, they'll announce who this person is with like a formal nomination. And then it'll have to go through the committee. We'll have to get the vote and have to be actually confirmed by the Senate to take this position.
As that is a pain, it's also good because this will be a more permanent position.
Right.
They can go ahead and say, okay, lock this person in, at least for a time being, and potentially is a new position permanently that's needed in this country. Not just, this person, but this job. So even a future administration has this as one of their appointed positions. They appoint, obviously it goes through the whole process of confirmation. I think that's a good thing. We'll also know and we'll hear from this person, see if they're up to the job. And if they're not, we know that the Republicans, and the Democrats, but the Republicans even, will make sure of it and will really take their time, making sure this is someone who is qualified.
And, we've heard in the past the term czar that's used a lot by the different administrations. Obviously,
Russians.
Right. But they became very popular, especially during the Obama administration. He would have all the czars that would come out, and it was people that were tasked with doing things, but it didn't really have the full weight of the government. Yeah. They could make recommendations. They could meddle in a lot of things.
The name always weirded me.
Right. It me as well, because it's very Soviet.
Yeah.
But then even Kamala Harris was famously the border czar, that you are tasked with getting to the bottom of this. Here's why I like this move of making it an assistant attorney general. It's the concept of like, oh, I'm going to make a fraud czar that all these presidents have done. And what happens with those positions at the end of the day? Nothing.
Right.
Nothing really. They talk a lot and not a lot happens. Yeah. However, with this, making it a confirmed position makes it have that scrutiny.
And they have power.
Exactly. Power. They have real power. They are an actual assistant attorney general. They will have the ability to bring cases, not just write a prosecution recommendation to the DOJ.
Not a nice
They
note.
have an office within it where they can actually go after fraudsters. And once again, when you're talking about what we've just seen in Minnesota and hearing that they want to turn to look at California, New York, and other states as well. And J.D. Vance even brought up his own state, which is led by Republicans of Ohio, that there are these fraudulent situations going on. I think that this is long overdue and will take time, but I also hope it's something that whomever the next president is doesn't just shut down.
Yeah, it doesn't get rid of. I think that it's good. And like you said, called out Ohio. I'm pretty sure everyone in the chat, and let me know, if you're in a state, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, do you not want someone checking in on whether your taxpayer dollars are being spent correctly?
Right.
I mean, who wouldn't want that? Who does not want protections against fraud? I think that would be bizarre. I mean, I'm looking at people coming in from Texas, Missouri, Auburn, Alabama. Well, we got a viewer from Auburn, Alabama, Southern California. We got people from Quebec. I don't know if that really, if they'll get the coverage that they need here in Quebec, but I'm excited that you're watching. And from all over the country, people are watching. Do you have a problem with somebody taking a look at what's going on in your state and how the funds are being spent? My answer would, hopefully the answer is, of course not. You would love that. You would love someone, make sure that they go in and, audit the books, make sure that things are taken care of, and that if your tax dollars are being spent on social programs or whatever it may be, that it's spent on the ones that you want it to be and isn't going to what we know what happened in Minnesota or what was alleged in Minnesota, mass chaos. We said Georgia's checking in. We know Texas, Tennessee, all of them are saying, yes, of course, bring it to Maryland. One person just said, this is what's happening. Ohio, California, everyone else is saying they have no problem at all. Of course, it should be checked. It will become I'm sure it'll become a political tool, though, where they go,
always,
oh, it's a voter ID of 2026. It's how dare they want this? How dare they want some sort of check to make sure?
Well, and once again, it's where you see when states sue the government because of like defunding of Planned Parenthood and things like that, that their whole argument in many cases is, no, you've been giving us this money, you can never take it away.
Right.
And that's kind of was the argument with a lot of the cuts to like USAID. You've been giving us this money, you can never look at it and take it away. We are now entitled to these dollars in perpetuity forever. You can never stop giving money. I think that's what the argument's going to be here from many on the left and many blue states is like, no. You give us money. You don't get to have oversight and to see whether or not we have mechanisms in place to ensure that this isn't just getting stolen. That's what you saw in this hearing this week, where these people from Minnesota are like, we knew that this was happening. There was also that hearing as well, where it said the people in the state government, because they weren't doing the things right, they were backdating and making up invoices to cover the tracks of the fraudsters.
You got to make sure that you are being protective and safe. We got a question coming in, Bill in Wyoming, which I understand the concern. Bill, go ahead.
I'm really concerned because I'm going to throw out a name. What if we give somebody like...
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that here and show you that this video does come from American Center for Law and Justice. I am following their channel. I've given them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Now, I want to jump back here and I'm going to share the comment from Steph. Are you aware that POTUS just withdrew from and defunded 66 international organizations? And I checked that out, and that is true. I checked it out on Grok. And also, I checked out for foreign aid that the government, the United States, normally just throws out billions upon billions of dollars. It's been cut 80% this year, okay? So Donald Trump is trying to control the finances. He is trying to. But of course, the Democrats, that's how they get their money to pay for these illegal aliens, to give them housing and, fraud fests like the daycare centers and healthcare centers that they have that aren't doing anything but taking money and funneling back through to buy votes in their election. He's trying his best to clear up this fraud, election fraud, and the financial fraud that's taking place here. Okay, let's jump back here. And I need to open the description box again. Let's move on to Benny Johnson. Okay, now the title of this, terrorist gang member attacks ICE in Portland, feds rammed with cars, shots fired, Dems at war. Now, he gets into this story. This is like an hour and 34 minutes or something. I will have this video in my daily news wrap-up, so you'll get to hear all of it. But he's going to talk about RFK Jr. in the beginning of this, and that's what I wanted to share with you. Here we go.
But here we go. Let's go through some of the top line just really quickly, because RFK is without question the single most consequential and successful HHS secretary in the history of America. They should just demolish the building after he walks out. They should just explode behind him, peacefully with nobody in it. because he's done such an excellent job in resetting the framing of what the government is here to do. And I loved this commentary from him yesterday. RFK, please pop up that photo. Thank you. RFK saying, listen, we are a democracy. I am not here to force you to do anything. I can't. I'm government, and people have always had the freedom to do whatever. They can make their own choices in this country. But I'm here as the government to set the guidelines, to say this is what you should do, to take the knowledge and the power and the weight and the force of the federal government and say, this is what you should be trying to do in order for the best outcomes in your life. You shouldn't be eating the food pyramid. No, your entire life shouldn't be a bunch of Wonder Bread. You know, the entire base of the food pyramid is eat as much Wonder Bread as possible, the old one, right? The base of the old food pyramid, the old food pyramid is trash. And they are resetting the table. And by the way, what's really important about all of this is that what flows from this, Klein's loading up the old pyramid versus the new pyramid right now. What flows from this is guidelines for school lunches, for what our men and women can eat inside of the military. I mean, look at how trash this old food pyramid was. This is garbage. Look at this. The old food pyramid. Eat as much white Wonder Bread as possible. Then you should eat some Kraft singles. Then, like, as an afterthought, you should eat some chicken, but only with a bunch of seed oils. This is the dumbest thing. This is what leads to obesity rates that are twice the rest of the world and a bunch of people dying in their 60s from heart attacks. This is the worst possible. I mean, I guess there's other really bad diets, but look at how much ultra processed food's on this. This isn't really even my lane. I'm just saying that, like, as I'm raising my own kids, I don't want kids to be obese. You want to see fat kids running around? You never saw that a couple of years ago. 20, 30 years ago, you never saw that. Try and find a fat kid in E.T., you can't find it. The truffle shuffle in the Goonies is really funny, because you never really saw stuff like that. But now it's like every other kid has diabetes when they're in grade school. It's because of this. And this is how the school lunches are made. School lunches are made like this. And you've trained these kids to eat like trash. So the new food pyramid is the opposite. The new food pyramid, which, can you get please get the actual graphic that the HHS has been using. It's all over the place. The new food pyramid is not only inverted in order to show absolutely no connection to the old, because the old was so flawed, but it is actually the way that I eat every single day, and hopefully the way that you eat, because this is what the government should do. It should project what is good for you, not force you to do anything. Out are the forced vaccine mandates from HHS. In is the framing of what healthy actually looks like. And healthy doesn't look like your 9-year-old having diabetes and a heart attack on the jungle gym. This is what healthy looks like. You will see the top of the food pyramid is meats and vegetables and fruits, whole fruits, not processed fruits. You won't find a single processed thing on the whole damn chart. Got some fresh baked sourdough down there. That's cool. My wife bakes sourdough, but the majority of what your diet should look like is not actually bread, especially ultra processed white bread. It's actually food that grows out of the ground the way God intended it. Chickens just walk around the way God made them, and you can eat those things. I mean, don't grab a chicken up and start biting it, but you know what I mean. Fruit, it grows on trees. You can eat that. You can grow vegetables in your own garden, and you can eat those. And that's the way God intended it. This is like God's food pyramid, actually. So it's a beautiful thing to see. We're there to celebrate it. Okay, great. No tariff ruling today. Breaking news. No tariff ruling today. That is a wonderful thing. The tariff ruling, everyone fears they're going to strike down Trump's tariffs, and it's going to lead to some real economic problems because the tariffs are bringing in billions for the country. And then a bunch of countries and companies will sue to get the money back, and it'll be just a nightmare.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on from that. And like I say, I'm like 14 minutes into this 1 hour and 38 minute video. And I will share this in my daily news wrap-up, so you'll get to hear the rest of this. Great information, incidentally. Let me go ahead and click on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Benny Johnson. I am following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right.
But here we go.
Let's jump back here. And Vince Dow, leftist silenced as new POV footage proves ICE agent acted in self-defense in Minnesota shooting. Okay. Well, let's see what Vince Dow has to say about this.
Footage of. That's fine. U.S. citizen. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead. So they've just released what is basically body cam footage of the ICE-related shooting in Minnesota. Technically, it was filmed on the ICE agent's cell phone, but the idea is the same. We want to see what happened from his point of view. And to make a long story short, everything we thought about this case from the beginning was completely vindicated and then some. Because not only is it, first of all, once again proven that the crazy liberal was trying to drive directly into the ICE agent, and the ICE agent acted very quickly in defense of his own life, but we further now have the confirmation. Yes, the ICE agent was actually struck with the vehicle, number one, and number two. You may remember there was a lot of speculation at the time, especially coming from liberals, that, oh, maybe she was just trying to drive away. That's still fleeing law enforcement, but fine. Or maybe she acted in a panic and it was never her intention to run over the ICE agent. Well, in this video, right, from his point of view, you can see she does not appear to be panicking. She actually looks the ICE agent right in the eye, then drives forward, which further demonstrates, we can't ask her now, obviously, but a likely terroristic intent to harm and or kill that ICE agent, which further vindicates the case of self-defense. Although, as I said from the beginning, it ultimately does not matter because that ICE agent in that moment does not have time to ask, hey, are you trying to flee or are you trying to run me over? The point is what? He's in imminent danger of his life. He has to act to protect his own life. But even then, this argument from liberals, oh, she was just trying to drive away. She was just trying to escape. Further destroyed here by the actual evidence. We'll talk about all of it here today, guys. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, if you want to stay up to date with all the latest news and coverage, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We greatly appreciate the support. And that said, before we get directly into this footage, I first of all just want to remind people what elected Democrats like Tim Walz, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries said about this from the beginning, because they, of course, proclaimed the liberal woman in this case, Renee Good, to be innocent. And in many cases, they used those exact words. And now we have the evidence. So just keep that in mind.
They have determined the character of a 37-year-old mom that they didn't even don't know. They've determined that the actions are done. I don't know. I've not used inflammatory terms of what happened. I've asked us to find the answers.
A few moments later.
When Kristi Noem was judge, jury, and basically executioner yesterday. That's very, very difficult. All of you saw a video in your eyes. We have a chaotic situation caused by the largest deployment in American history of federal agents into a community with no communication to locals. We had a chaotic situation where an individual is in their car, shot and killed. And so, look, I want to be very cautious here.
Okay, so just as a reminder, right, that is the type of rhetoric we have heard thus far. One moment, Tim Walz is saying he's going to wait for the facts. He wants a full investigation. And then 2 seconds later, he tells you immediately what he really thinks. That woman was innocent. Kristi Noem is the judge, jury, and executioner. You know, BLM activists use that type of dumb rhetoric regarding self-defense all of the time. And of course, if you've been paying attention, he's been fuming a lot over the fact that the federal government, aka the FBI, will be handling the investigation themselves. He's basically saying the state of Minnesota should have a role. Oh, you mean the very state of Minnesota where you're already saying that the domestic terrorist in this case was innocent? That state of Minnesota, or the one that gave a complete sham trial to Derek Chauvin, right? That basically rigged the case to go in a certain political narrative. Yeah, we don't exactly trust you on that. But keep in mind, on top of that, Okay, what we are getting right now, folks, is the so-called full investigation. Do you know what investigations actually require, Democrats? Not just empty rhetoric, not just screaming or protesting in the streets. That's not what investigation looks like. An investigation is when you go into and release the evidence. And in many such cases that we've seen before in the so-called police brutality type of situations, the actual evidence does not bode well for liberals. I'm going to tell you more about this in a second, but I do just want to say, I think that body cameras were the worst thing to ever happen to those left-wing activists. They called for it for years. Oh, we need transparency. We need to be able to see. In this case, the ICE agent is not even mandated to wear a body camera, but he's filming with his phone. So that way, the world, and, very interesting. They say, oh, they're the secret police. They're the Gestapo. Here he is filming with his phone so that the world can see. That evidence is now released. And guess what? It doesn't look good for them. But of course, Tim Walz has been far from alone in this. Here you have Hakeem Jeffries saying that the killing of Renee Good was an abomination, a disgrace, and not just that, right? Blood is clearly on the hands of those individuals within the nation been pushing an extreme policy. So blood is on the hands here of the government. Chuck Schumer further says he watched the video and says there seems to be no justification for what these agents did. Well, you can clearly see that on video, but of course, Democrats are just directly lying about this. He calls for a full investigation. Again, I say that's what you're getting. We'll get into that in a second. First, take a listen.
Let me first say that the killing of Renee Nicole Good was an abomination, a disgrace. And blood is clearly on the hands of those individuals within the administration who've been pushing an extreme policy that has nothing to do with immigration enforcement connected to removing violent felons from this country. We support the removal of violent felons from the country who are here illegally.
No, you don't.
I watched the video. You felt like your stomach was being punched. Looking at the video, there seemed no justification for what these agents did. There needs to be a full investigation at the federal level, although I have little faith in the FBI at doing a fair investigation, or DHS, but at the local level as well.
Oh, really? You watched the video, did you, Chuck? You saw no justification for what the ICE agent did. You want a full investigation? Here's what that looks like. All right, that said, as you can see right here, Alpha News has apparently obtained cell phone footage showing the perspective of the federal agent at the center of the ICE-involved shooting in Minneapolis. A lot of things to break down about this, but first, let's show you it. Again, graphic content warning. Kids, close your eyes. But here's essentially what happened from the ICE agent's point of view. Viewer discretion is advised.
I'm not mad, boy. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. It's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I said go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Oh!
Yeah, so plenty of takeaways there, but let's start with the most important one. First and foremost, as you can see from the angle, she drove the car right directly into him, and as you can appear to hear, she hit him with the car, okay? So this idea that the ICE agent was really off to the side or even watching it in real time, oh, he could have only had time to James Bond. It's ridiculous, right? The ICE agent had many steps at, you clearly see cars coming right at him. Heard some out there try to say, why are you standing in a car? I mean, that seems pretty stupid, to which I say it doesn't change the fact that, self-defense is self-defense, right? If a car is driving right into you, regardless of whether you should have been standing there or not, yeah, I mean, that's self-defense. But even then, you can see from what the ICE agent is doing, he wasn't just like standing in front of the car and just trying to instigate the driver. Oh, hey, come right into me, right? He actually here appears to be filming her because he's showing this for evidence, right? Well, likely she was already breaking the law. They were already agitating. They were already impeding with law enforcement. And that does appear to be why he does a full sweep of the car, right? Notice that. So he's like, oh, let me show what the car looks like. Let me show the driver. Let me get the plates, et cetera, et cetera. That's what he was doing. Okay. So he wasn't just like loitering in front of the car as if that even matters. Lastly, though, again, this whole argument, we talked about it. Mehdi Hassan, many others were trying to bring it up. She was just trying to drive away. She was just in a panic, right? Well, clearly, first of all, you can tell by their behavior and the context of this, what they're saying. She's not really having a freak out. She's absolutely not a person in a panic. As a matter of fact, they're actually extremely arrogant. They're like, oh, I'm calm. And then, just straight up talking crap to the ICE officers in a extremely relaxed demeanor. Yeah, let me just say it was not a panicked, oh, no, wait, what am I doing? I'm freaking out. No. You can see actually a pretty high degree of intentionality with what was done here. And folks, if you still don't believe me on that, just take a look at this camera angle right here, right? So you kind of get a freeze frame from the video. You can see Renee Good, the suspect here, was staring directly at the ICE agent when she floored the gas pedal into him, right? So she's looking right at him. She actually moves and angles the car, and we talked about this even from the side angle, right? In a way, making sure it would come right at the ICE agent, and that's exactly what she did. Folks, it does not appear by any account that she was simply trying to drive away. So again, just to recap that, they were already instigating, they were already agitating. I understand that's not an excuse to just use lethal force, but it is to say, right? They don't appear to have been in a panic. Oh, she was caught in a bad situation, whatever. No, it was very intentional what they were up to, okay? She looks him right in the eye. She drives right into him, strikes him with the vehicle. That's when he appears to open fire, and it's not like, he let off 10, 12 rounds like the BLM activists always get mad about it. I think I heard, 2 shots? That was about it. And, while he's like trying to get out of the way of that vehicle, it's straight up and once again comes at her not even that fast, but it was fatal. It did kill her. Why? That's a 6,000 pound likely vehicle. Okay, even at low speeds, hitting a pedestrian, it can cause a lot of damage. And that's, of course, the very reason why the ICE agent acted in defense of his life. So, again, Democrats are like, oh, we want evidence, right? They called for years for body cameras. And what does the body camera show? That as to a degree, as I'll repeat, it is a tragedy because this woman who, yes, does have a child at home, was so brainwashed in the cult of violent leftism that she thought this was a good thing to do, right? That's the tragedy there, and it's very sad. It's different than when an Islamic terrorist gets radicalized and throws away their life to go harm others. That's the tragic side of it, sure. But in terms of, her just accidentally getting caught up in this situation, right? She was just panicking. She was just freaking out. She was trying to get away. None of that is true. Right? It's actually extremely clear it was intentional what she was doing. And I want to point out, that was kind of the gray area that we didn't know thus far, right? Was she just freaking out and trying to get away? Was she intentionally trying to commit an act of domestic terrorism? Actually, the body cam footage, once again, as we see in so many of these cases, vindicates that the suspect was absolutely acting, right, with malicious intent. So yes, I feel bad for her child. It's a tragic situation that, this had to happen. But you cannot simultaneously say that her actions here were heroic or she was doing the right thing. She was, acting as a valid member of the resistance. I guess you can say that if you're a Democrat because, as I pointed out, it's basically been their stance from the very beginning of this. The reason they don't care about the facts, the reason they don't care about this video is because they absolutely did want this ICE agent to be killed. They think it's a good thing. They celebrate, right? Political violence, and that's of course what this is all about. But okay, there you have it. And of course, what is Tim Walz saying about all of this? He's trying to quote 1984, right? Despite the fact that even the side angle videos show a pretty clear picture. No, he's trying to say the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential directive. It certainly feels like that in this moment. No, we're not rejecting, right, the evidence of our eyes and ears. We're watching the evidence of our eyes and ears. That's exactly what you're calling for, okay? But anyways.
Those words we remembered, many of us in here in sophomore, when we read it, that the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most important directive. It certainly feels like that in this moment. And so I want Minnesotans to not believe that I'm telling you not to be angry, not to be scared, not to be feeling a little bit hopeless in this moment. But I would also say this, and I saw it last night. I saw it during George Floyd. I've seen it throughout our history. When things looked really bleak, it was Minnesota's first that held that line.
Yeah, and then, of course, he basically tries to go on and declare civil war against the federal government. But you could probably tell a deep irony, hypocrisy, if you want to call it that, because that's exactly what he's calling you to do, right? Reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. But I would like to point out, as sick and screwed up as it is, this is sort of the moment that the left wing has been waiting for, right? They're actually kind of in a weird sense gleeful about this. I know it's sick to say, but it's true because, they've been waiting for any opportunity, much like BLM, by the way. You notice how they exploit even situations where the officer's acting in self-defense and they rise up, they don't care. Why? Because it's their agenda to, first of all, in a broader picture, right, topple Western civilization. But in this case right here, right, they want to basically find any reason to paint ICE agents as Gestapo or Nazis. And so, anytime something like this happens, it doesn't matter the context. That's why they haven't cared from the beginning, right? They heard a U.S. citizen was shot by ICE. Therefore, let's go protest. See, they're the Nazis. See, we told you about it. Although, when you look at, frankly, most of the history, if not all, of the left wing in America and the way they've exploited these kinds of incidents to say, oh, look, the government's cracking down on us. They're against us. They're evil. They're persecuting us. Essentially, all of them are either, I'm not going to use the word fake, but basically used in a way where you basically instigated the situation, right? And then took the picture once there was a retaliation. You see that all the time at protests, by the way. It's the same thing, right? They're chucking stuff at police officers. They're chucking stuff at ICE, throwing Molotov cocktails, burning stuff. And then when the tear gas gets deployed, what do they say? ICE is tear gassing peaceful protesters. Take the picture, get the cameras out. They've used that strategy, by the way, for many decades. Same thing in the 1960s, right? And it's really the same thing here. Again, tragedy. I'm not like cheering or saying yay over it, but it is the truth here, right? That she, quite intentionally by what we saw, drove into the ICE agent, and the liberals are, of course, painting the ICE agent as a bad guy for acting in self-defense of his own life, So that's what's going on, and, I frankly think you want to have a full investigation, let's have it. The more video we see of this incident, the more it vindicates the ICE agent, Maybe liberals should stop digging. Maybe they should just admit they're lying, admit they're doing exactly the 1984 quote, reject the evidence, just believe the narrative on it, right? But anyways, that said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.
All right, there you have it, folks. Let me remind you that this video does come from Vince Dow. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up.
President Molino.
I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here. And let me close out the live chat. I had to say hello to Debbie BS for chatting. Okay, let me slide down here and see what X22 report has to say. Mr. and Mrs. X, Trump and JFK just destroyed the deep state plan to keep us sick and unhealthy. Episode 21. Some good stuff. And this also, I will share this. We'll play a snippet of it, but I will share this in my daily news wrap-up so you'll get to see the whole thing. Here we go.
To do here, because I think in the end, their main objective was to, of course, destroy the military, make sure that you didn't have fighting men, and eventually take over the country and destroy the Constitution, because I think that was their ultimate goal with all of this. And when you look at vaccines today, the Trump administration took it from, you'll probably have the count of a lot of vaccines that these little babies would take, and they basically lowered it. Why were we taking so many vaccines when a lot of the vaccines had nothing to do with the ailments that the baby would actually get. So it never made any sense. And I think when RFK came in, he started to look at everything, and of course he was doing this research before. He started to realize, like, wait a minute, we don't need all of this. This is absolutely ridiculous. And of course, yes, pharmaceutical companies, doctors, they were all making money off of this.
Well, I was going to say that's a big part of it is the money push. I mean, we've touched on this briefly before. RFK put this in about like the hepatitis B one, for example. Like they created that vaccine for sex workers and for homeless people and that. And then, but obviously people weren't lining up to do that, to take these vaccines. And they were like, oh, how can we make money on this? And they were giving it mandatory to every baby born in the United States, even though the mother does get tested for hepatitis B during her pregnancy, but they were giving it anyway within 24 hours of the baby being born. And there's really absolutely no reason for it. So now that was the biggest change in this. I mean, I think we were at like, I should get the exact number. I thought I had 72 or 76 vaccines children were taking over time. Now we're down to 11, which
that's a very big
huge
difference.
But hepatitis B in particular, now they're calling it's shared clinical decision making, meaning that that the parent shares in the decision making of whether or not they want their child to have the Hep B. What I just I just feel this way, and I have to say this as a parent, make sure though you really go in educated when you're meeting with your pediatrician, because I know they say that, but like for example, I got my teeth cleaned the other day, and you know how RFK said about fluoride, that, you know, we need to get fluoride out of the water. Fluoride's not good, and all these negative things. We haven't been doing fluoride toothpaste for years. I mean, we took that away a long time ago, and didn't do like the fluoride water and all those things. And you know, when she did my teeth cleaning, she's like, okay, now I'm gonna do your fluoride treatment. And I go, oh no, I don't want that, thank you. And she goes, oh, okay. But she was automatically going to give it because they're in that zone of this is what we do, because this is part of it. So you have to be your own advocate. You do. And for your child especially, you have to be your advocate. Make sure that, you know, your doctor is aware that it's a shared decision-making experience, because I feel like sometimes they're on autopilot and they're in that rote method of giving you care. And, you know, you're allowed to question your medical professional in the sense that, oh, why does my child need this? Or what are the reasons? Or I want to wait on that. You know, I'd like to wait till they're a little bit older to get that vaccine. You know, President Trump was even saying, you know, you used to get the MMR, so you would get measles, mumps, rubella all at once. And he's saying, get them separate. Like it's very interesting. Like when I mean, I'm not saying that I know he's not a doctor, but I'm saying that.
Well, Bill Gates, there's a lot of these people.
Exactly, that are telling you, you know, all these things. So I think it's just very important that, you know, I like how they put shared clinical decision making, but make sure that you're exercising that right, because it is your right to talk to your doctor about these things. And like, ask your doctor, have you read the medical insert? Because when you read the medical inserts of these vaccines, I believe it was, I think it's measles, but one of them, blindness is a symptom. Like if you get if you get measles, like you could be blind. I think that's what it was. But also one of the side effects of the vaccine is also blindness, which is very fast. So sometimes you have to justify, like, okay, what is the reason, you know, that I'm getting the vaccine? Is it really necessary? And that's why I think they could pare it down to 11, like necessary ones for your health.
And what's very interesting about this is that Trump and RFK didn't say, okay, you're not going to take these. That's it. If you want to take them, because again, this is going to be the argument where they were going to turn on RFK and Trump, saying, listen, they're saying, oh, nobody should have them. We're not going to give them anymore. But what they're really saying is, listen, this is what we recommend. If you want these, you go ahead and you can take them. So those people that want them so badly, listen, they've given you the information. They've given you what you need to make a decision now. Instead of the pharmaceutical companies making the decision for you,
exactly,
they're giving you the information. So this way you could do research to say, you know something, maybe we don't want this. And I find this very interesting about how people say, oh, you know, you can't question your doctor. You can't say, I don't want this or anything like that. Well, think about the pharmaceutical companies when they advertise all those drugs, you know, all the drugs, all the different names they make up for all these different ailments that I think really probably come from the vaccine. It's very interesting because that marketing is to the people. They want you to go to your doctor want you to ask for that drug. So when people say, well, you shouldn't really question your doctor if they're recommending that, but you're questioning your doctor saying, give me this drug, because the pharmaceutical companies are advertising it.
Right.
So that's very interesting. But Trump and RFK, they made it so you can actually make a decision. And the recommendation is that you only need these 11 vaccines. So are schools now going to follow through on all this? Because remember, a lot of the public schools, they say, no, you have to get everything. Now that the recommendation is only 11, you could say to them, no, this is the recommended amount. I do not have to do this.
Right. Well, that's what, I mean, that was the whole thing, even with the COVID thing. Like your employer was saying you must or you can't come to work. I mean, and I think that was the dangerous part of all of that. It's like all of a sudden your health was kind of held for, like, you had to kind of give up your health in order to work, in order to go to school, like all these things.
Well,
like,
the military won a lawsuit
yes.
against that now, because they were forcing people to get the COVID shot.
Yes.
And they saying we didn't want it.
Right.
And they fired or let them go.
Yes.
And then the military, those individuals, those military officers, they decided to sue, and they actually won the case because it was unconstitutional what Biden was doing.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I feel like it is in general. Like, you know, I know that everyone, like you said, if you want to go get vaccinated and do those things, that's great. But then, you know, there's a lot of hypocrisy here too, because you look at, you know, how Biden was also letting in so many illegal people. Were they vetted for vaccines? Do we know what they came in here? Did they show us their immunization card when they were jumping the border wall? You know what I'm saying? Like it's so ridiculous and hypocritical, but then you're forcing our children to mask up and get a vaccine that they didn't even know anything about COVID. It just was like, oh, here, take this, do this. But that's what I'm saying. There's the hypocrisy in it. So that's why I feel like we're getting back to that common sense thinking. Like, yes, you know, measles, mumps, rubella, polio, like we're getting back to basics. And I think it's so important. We're getting back to common sense. Like, you don't need every single thing that comes out. And then, you know, I can't stand the argument either when they're like, oh, well, because there's other chemicals involved in these vaccines. Like if you read the inserts, formaldehyde, aluminum, they're like, well, it's just a small trace amount. You can get that. I'm like, you shouldn't be giving a 10 to 15 pound newborn baby any of metals and things. We know that those things are bad for us. So why would you start doing it? Because it's just going to exponentially go up.
I got to tell you a story that happened to me at work. I've retired from a pharmaceutical company. And I used to drink filtered water at work, bringing bottles of water. And some girl asked me, why do you do that? And I said, because I don't like what they put in the water. She said, what? And I said, well, for one thing, they put fluoride in it, which is a poison. Okay? And they put chlorine in it to kill germs and biological entities in there. And since I myself am a biological entity, I care not to drink it. She said, well, they don't put that much in it. And I said, okay, how much pee would be sufficient to put in a glass of water for you to drink? 1 drop? Would that just be a little bit? Would that be fine for you to drink that? Okay, I see your point. All right, well, see, that's the thing. Oh, it's just a little bit. Okay, well, if it's bad, a little bit over a period of time when you drink water quite a bit is not okay. All right, I'm sorry, I just had to jump in there and give my 2 cents worth in.
Getting these vaccines when they go for their well visit. And then all of a sudden you have a kid who's developing like allergies or, you know, I mean, there's so autism. There's so many parents that said, my kid went in, beautiful, healthy baby, and then got their vaccine, crazy fever, and they were the same. And that's like, those stories are chilling. And RFK worked with a lot of those moms prior to getting into the role he's in now. So I think he's doing a phenomenal job. I think it's so important. And I think it really is just reminding the American people, you have rights here, and you have the right to have a shared decision-making process with your medical professional, because they
have the right
you.
to get real information, peer-reviewed, documented evidence of what the vaccines actually do, and actually what food does. But the vaccines, it's very interesting that we have almost the same schedule as Europe.
Denmark. We're the most
specifically.
similar to Denmark. I think the other ones are it's funny, it's Northern Europe. It's Norway and Finland like also have like a leaner schedule.
Right.
We are the most similar. I think Denmark is 10 actually, and we have 11, but it's very similar.
So that's
Denmark.
very interesting that we decided to go with that model when they started to look at everything.
Well, they went to the core diseases: measles, mumps, rubella, polio, whooping cough, tetanus, diphtheria, HIV, I'm not going to say this word, pneumococcal, HPV, and chickenpox. That's 11 for us. They did 10. They skipped the chickenpox one. I mean, let's face it. You and I had chickenpox.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no vaccine, but then our
I was
kids
just itchy.
had it. No, I am, but like you're okay. You're going to survive chickenpox. It's not like so is it worth it? And it reminds me of like these vaccines. I know they keep saying, oh, it's safe for everybody, but think about it. If you're giving everyone a vaccine, it's almost like lotion. You know how some people like, oh, I can use this lotion every day, and then somebody else goes to use it and they have a sensitivity to it. I don't know why. Like, I don't. I think less is more in this case. It's not like when way back in the day when people weren't washing their hands after they went to the restroom. We have indoor plumbing. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very different society now. And yes, there are certain diseases that yes, we should have vaccines for. I'm not saying I'm not into it, but I feel like it was just an insane amount of vaccinations. I mean, when I even look at it now compared to 25 years ago when we had our children, it's just like they just keep upping the ante. They just keep adding more vaccines. It was really getting out of control in my opinion.
And it's probably they picked Denmark is because we see the stats with autism, with allergies, and we see the difference between Denmark and the United States. And it's probably one of the reasons why they decided to go along with the vaccine schedule of Denmark.
I'm sure because it is a noticeably less amount of children that are diagnosed with autism comparatively, and even food allergies. Because I was looking into that too. Because remember, I don't know about other moms or out there or whatever that are listening, but it's like I remember when peanuts. It was like the worst thing. Like they had a separate like peanut-free table in the kids' elementary school, and it was like I was like, when did everyone suddenly become allergic to peanuts? I mean, I grew up on peanut butter and jelly. It was like and even our children did. I was going to say even our children. That was like a staple. That was one thing that all my kids liked, and we always couldn't go wrong with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And it's it does all the things, but so many kids were allergic, and interestingly enough, they're way more common here compared to Denmark. So 2% of U.S. kids overall from 2025, but now it's been dropping, which is interesting. I'm not sure why it's dropping now in our country, but I don't know if it's because less parents are vaccinated. I don't know. I don't know what the numbers are on that. But in Denmark, it's 0.2 to 0.6% of kids are allergic to peanuts. And that's very interesting, which also we'll get into the food in a little bit, but European food is very different from our food as well. But
yes. And the same thing with autism. Autism is very, very different in Denmark. And actually, if you look at the Amish, they don't even get the vaccines, and they have nearly no one that's autistic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, personally, my opinion, I think when we start to see this and we see the next generation of children, I think all of a sudden we're going to see the autism rate, allergies really start to decline. And think about why the pharmaceutical companies wanted to keep giving the children this, because they make illnesses. Yeah. And with these illnesses, they sell more drugs. With these drugs, they make more money.
Right.
So it's one gigantic system that they've created to attack the American people.
Well, it's a catch-22. It's like, oh, hi, you have this ailment. Oh, by the way, we gave you that ailment. Oh, but look, we have a cure for that. Or we have a medication that you're going to be on for the rest of your life that's going to help you with that. And then all of a sudden you're spending a lot of money on all these prescriptions or prescription drugs. Then things interact with other things. Then you have to go on another drug to get rid of that symptom. And it's this horrible cycle that, that you just can't get out of because you're in that system, which is really, it's crazy when you think about it.
Yeah. And when you think about food, it's pretty much the same thing. Now, RFK Jr. just recently changed the food pyramid.
Yes.
Which I find very interesting because actually, if we go back in time, and I think you have this information about the food pyramid, I think people, today think it's been around since the beginning of time, but it really hasn't.
No, it has not. Well, originally, when we were back in like the 70s, we had the basic food groups, and you studied the 4 basic food groups, and you ate from the food groups. But actually, In 1992, they switched to the food guide pyramid, which is the one that we grow up like the one that everyone's thinking of. And basically, it's the one that RFK is using now, but he inverted it, really. But in 1992, it was basically the base of 6 to 11 servings of breads, cereals, rice, and pasta, then fruits and veggies, then smaller protein and dairy, and a tiny bit of fats and sweets at the very top. But a lot of that push came because that was under, I believe it was George W. But it was very interesting that a lot of the lobbyists were there representing the farmers with the corn and the wheat, and high fructose corn syrup came on the scene. And that's where a lot of those, that's why a lot of that was that pasta, grain, carb, like all that stuff.
They were adding all that to that?
Yes, because they were adding those things, and then you're getting away from real food, because then it's like there's all these chemicals, because then they were using the high fructose corn syrup as opposed to like real sugar or things your body knows how to process. Like your body knows how to process.
So this was a chemical they can patent, and then they can sell it to the food manufacturers to substitute the sugars. And what's very interesting about, I remember high fructose corn syrup. I think it was almost in everything. Actually. And basically it was the parents and the people who said, we shouldn't be eating this anymore. And there was a very, very big pushback against high fructose corn syrup. It wasn't that, the company said, something, we shouldn't be using this. They went ahead because it was cheaper, and they put it into everything because they were making a lot more money. It was the people that said, this is not good for us. What are we doing here?
Yeah. Well, the USDA revamped it in like, it was like the 80s. They claimed that the diets weren't matching what science was learning about health. But, a lot of these studies, they have these studies, and it just supports what they want to do because they have an agenda, which is usually by money. And so they revamped it. They dropped the basic 4, and then they did the food guide pyramid in 92. And then the USDA's nutritionists, they emphasized grains because they were cheap, filling, and thought to be healthy carbs. And then, so yes, it was George H.W. Bush. And then he had the agribusiness lobbies had their fingers in it, and that they wanted to get into corn front and center. And that's why the carbs got the throne, because it just became this really, this big push to do that, because it was a cheap way, like you said, to get it into everything. And then they just filled us up with carbs. And it's actually, when you look at a healthy diet, that's really not it. Mostly carbs. And then what happens is, now fast forward how many years later, we have a serious childhood obesity problem in this country, not just adults, but the children, which usually children are not obese because they're running around, they're doing whatever, but we have a serious issue on our hands. And
I think they went with the carb direction is because you can process a lot of foods, and a lot of the foods that are processed, it's all carbs. Protein is expensive.
Yeah.
Carbs is cheap.
Well, that goes with the whole, the private Western Central Bank getting, because
exactly. So
money.
And also
people
carbs,
will be able to afford it.
And you can actually create carbs. Yes, I know they're trying to create meat now and things like that.
Gross.
But they're able to create carbs a lot easier. They're able to package it a lot easier. It lasts a longer period of time. And basically, when you take these carbs, you're basically robbing your body of all the vitamins, nutrients, and everything like that. And I think because of all the processed foods, I think we've seen diabetes cases rise dramatically.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back to the 50s and the 60s, I mean, people that had diabetes was, and this is globally, not just in America, was under 100 million.
Wow.
And now globally, if you fast forward to today, it's over 900 million people that have diabetes.
That's insane.
Which is unbelievable. And that has to do with the food that people are consuming. Now, we have very different ingredients in packaged foods compared to Europe.
Yes.
I mean, it's very, very different.
Right. I was going to say, even just about the protein thing before we go into that, is just that when you eat protein, you're satiated for a longer amount of time, and your body is processing. When you're doing those carbs, yes, you're going to get energy, but then you kind of crash because it spikes your blood sugar. It's just a different way your body digests a carb like that, especially a carb that's a complex carb, like a carb that is man-made. It's not like a sweet potato. I mean, like from the ground.
Right.
And it's those things that they got us away from. It's like, oh, easy convenience food. Let's pop this in the microwave. And, and you're eating these pasta things because, like you said, protein, it takes a little more time to prepare. Maybe protein is more expensive for sure, but it's better for your body because it gives you energy. You're full longer and, whatever. But it is very interesting how Europe has very different guidelines. I mean, we've talked about her before, the woman who goes by the Food Babe. She highly recommend checking out her Instagram account because she gives really good information and she's battling it. She's in the trenches with RFK because they're still trying to get around it with these food dyes and all of these things that they're still trying to weasel their way around still getting these things into our food because Europe's not allowing it. And it's interesting that RFK we're looking at that to the model, which I think is a good thing because we got so far away from real food. I mean, when you go to the grocery store, think about it. Those aisles in the middle, that's all processed. It's not.
Yep, she's right. It's all processed, and it's all about the bucks, okay? It's all about the profit line. They mix up this stuff that it tastes good, but damn, it's just not good for you. It's unhealthy. All right, let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from X22 Report. I am following
you go back
the channel.
To the 50s and the 60s.
Okay, and I am following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, I do want to share some information here with you from Rumble Wallet. Okay.
They can cancel your accounts, freeze your cards, decide what you're allowed to buy, say, or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters more now than ever.
Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Buy digital assets like Tether, Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middleman, no cancel button, and when you want to support the creators you actually believe in, you can use the Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference.
Designed for patriots who stand tall, this cap captures the enduring spirit of liberty. The Liberty Bell stands proud this isn't a credit line they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently. Yours to protect your future. Yours to protect your family. When the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability.
Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today. Download Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom.
Okay, here we are. I've copied the comment or the chats into a comment, and Debbie BF or Debbie BS sent me a couple of snowmen. Is it snowing where you are, Debbie, or is that just something that you did? But at any rate, let me go ahead and make the chats permanent for this video. And let me remind you that these videos do come directly from the producers that created them. I have the links to the videos as well as the links to the producer's channel right here in the description box. Now, as I said, let's jump over here. This is my playlist for my daily news wrap-up, which is I'm going to start that about 9:30. I've got the Benny Johnson video that I said I'd finish up. Then I've got a Black Conservative Perspective video here that I thought was interesting and I want to share with you. Also from X22 Report, Mr. and Mrs. X, we're going to play the rest of that. I have some information from On the Fringe, Mel K Show, also Steve Gruber, Dr. Steve Turley, McWater's Effect, Megan Kelly. Got a lot of great information in here, folks. So go ahead and take a break now. Grab a donut and a cup of coffee, or a sandwich and a soft drink or a beer, or a nice glass of wine and some cheese, and meet me back here at 9:30. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for being with me. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.